Captain Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he stared at the massive shape on his scanner. The mining ship Iron Maiden had been working the asteroid belt for 3 weeks, looking for rare metals. What they found instead was something that would change everything. "Lisa, get up here," Jake called to his chief engineer. "You need to see this." Lisa Park climbed up to the bridge, her tools still in her hands. She was a small woman with quick hands and an even quicker mind. When she saw the scanner reading, her eyes went wide. "That's not an asteroid," she whispered. The object was huge, maybe 3 times the size of their mining ship. It was dark metal with strange curves and angles that hurt to look at. Most importantly, it was not human-made. "Carlos, prep the boarding gear," Jake ordered. Carlos Ruiz was their security officer, a former Marine who had seen action on the outer colonies. If anyone could handle a first contact situation, it was him. Dr. Amanda Foster joined them on the bridge. She was their science officer, someone who studied alien artifacts for the government. Her face was pale as she looked at the readings. "The metal composition is unknown," she said, checking her instruments. "The ship appears to be drifting." No power signature, no life signs. Jake made his decision. "We're going aboard. Lisa, Carlos, Amanda, you're with me. Everyone else stays here and keeps the engines warm." They suited up and took a small shuttle to the alien vessel. Up close, it was even more impressive and terrifying. The hull was covered in what looked like battle damage. Huge holes had been blasted through the armor. Whatever had attacked the ship had been serious about destroying it. "There," Carlos pointed to what looked like an airlock. "Standard design, just bigger." The airlock worked, which surprised everyone. Inside, the ship was dark and cold. Their helmet lights cut through the blackness, showing corridors that were too tall and too wide for humans. The gravity was lighter than Earth normal. "Power core is damaged but still running," Lisa reported, checking her scanner. "Atmosphere is breathable but cold. No radiation." They moved deeper into the ship. The corridors were empty but not clean. There were dark stains on the walls and floors. Some looked like blood, but not human blood. "The crew either died or ran away," Carlos said, his weapon ready. They found the bridge first. It was a massive room with control stations that looked like they were grown rather than built. Everything was organic curves and flowing lines. But what caught their attention were the screens that were still working. Amanda studied the alien writing on the displays. "This is Kethvar," she said quietly. "I've seen this language before." Jake felt his blood turn cold. Everyone in human space knew about the Kethvar. They were the aliens who had been attacking human colonies for the past 2 years. "They came without warning, destroyed everything, and left no survivors. Are you sure?" he asked. "Positive. This is definitely a HFY warship." They continued exploring. The ship was enormous, with levels upon levels of weapons, engines, and crew quarters. Most of the equipment was damaged, but not destroyed. It was like the crew had left in a hurry. In what looked like the captain's quarters, Amanda made a discovery that changed everything. She found a collection of objects in a display case. Human objects. A child's toy. A wedding ring. A piece of cloth with the words New Phoenix Colony written on it. Jake stared at the items. New Phoenix had been a human colony of 50,000 people. 6 months ago, the Kethvar had attacked it. When human ships arrived, they found nothing but ash and debris. No survivors, no bodies. Just empty space where a world had been. "This ship was there," Amanda said, her voice shaking. "This ship helped destroy New Phoenix." The weight of that discovery hit them all. They were standing inside one of the ships that had murdered 50,000 innocent people. Jake felt anger building in his chest, but also something else. Opportunity. "How much of this ship is working?" he asked Lisa. She checked her scanners again. "Main power is at 30%. Life support works. The engine is damaged but repairable. Most weapons are offline but intact. Could we fly it?" "With work, yes." "But Jake, this is alien technology. We don't understand any of it." "We could learn." Carlos looked at his captain. "What are you thinking?" Before Jake could answer, their communicator crackled. "It was the Iron Maiden. Captain, we have company." "Earth Defense Force ship approaching fast," Jake cursed. If the military took this ship, it would disappear into some government lab. No one would ever see it again. And the people who destroyed New Phoenix would never pay for what they did. 20 minutes later, Commander Ryan Bell came aboard the alien ship with a squad of Marines. Bell was a good man, someone Jake had served with years ago. But he was also a by-the-book officer who followed orders. "Jake, this ship needs to go to Earth Command immediately," Bell said as they met on the bridge. "Or Jake replied. We could claim salvage rights, Bell raised an eyebrow. On an alien warship? On a derelict vessel found in unclaimed space. According to salvage law, finders keepers. This isn't a cargo hauler, Jake. This is military hardware. Amanda stepped forward. Commander, this ship participated in the destruction of New Phoenix Colony. I can prove it. She showed Bell the trophy collection. His face went hard as he looked at the human artifacts. My sister lived on New Phoenix, Bell said quietly. She was a teacher there. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew that New Phoenix had been home to families, children, ordinary people just trying to build new lives on a distant world. What are you proposing? Bell asked. Give us time to study this ship, Jake said. Help us understand how it works. The government will still get their intelligence, but maybe we can do something more. Like what? Jake looked around the alien bridge, thinking of all the weapons and technology surrounding them. Like making sure the Kethvar never attack another human colony. Bell was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned to his Marines. Secure the perimeter. No one else comes aboard without my permission. He looked back at Jake. You have 2 weeks. After that, I have to report this to Earth Command. Make them count. As the Marines spread out through the ship, Jake felt the weight of what they were attempting. They were going to try to understand and use alien technology that was centuries ahead of anything humans had built. It was dangerous, maybe impossible, but as he looked at the child's toy in the Kethvar trophy case, he knew they had to try. The people of New Phoenix deserved justice, and if the Kethvar thought humans were just weak prey, it was time to show them how wrong they were. The real work was about to begin. Mining Station Omega-7 had been abandoned for 5 years. The old facility floated in empty space at the edge of human territory, forgotten by everyone except Jake Morrison and his crew. It was the perfect place to hide a stolen alien warship. The Kethvar vessel, which they had started calling the Retribution, sat in the station's main hangar bay. Work lights surrounded it as teams of humans crawled over its surface like ants on a giant metal beast. Dr. Kevin Torres was the first expert to arrive. He had been designing weapons for Earth Defense Force until a disagreement with his superiors ended his career. Now he stood on the alien bridge, studying displays that showed weapon systems, beyond human understanding. The main gun could probably destroy a space station with one shot, he told Jake. But it won't respond to any commands. Maya Johnson, their new chief engineer, was having the same problem with the ship's engines. She was young but brilliant, someone who understood both human and theoretical alien technology. It's like the ship is locked, she explained. Everything is there. Everything should work, but it won't accept our input. Dr. Nathan Cooper had been studying alien biology for 10 years. He was thin and quiet, the kind of man who spent more time with computers than people, but he was making progress where others had failed. The Kethvar used genetic locks, he announced during their daily meeting. The ship reads DNA and decides who is allowed to give commands. So it only works for Kethvar? Jake asked. Right now, yes, but I think I can fool it. Cooper had been studying samples of Kethvar genetic material found on the ship. He believed he could modify human DNA markers to trick the ship's systems. It's dangerous, he warned. We would need to inject modified genes into our bloodstream. I don't know what the side effects might be. Do it, Jake said without hesitation. While Cooper worked on the genetic problem, Lieutenant Colonel Ashley Morgan arrived with 20 volunteers. Morgan was a career soldier who had lost her entire unit in a Kethvar raid. The volunteers were similar, people who had lost family and friends to alien attacks. Tony Garcia was one of them. He had been a civilian pilot on New Phoenix when the Kethvar attacked. He had managed to escape in a cargo ship, but his wife and children had not been so lucky. Now he spent his days learning to fly an alien warship. The controls are different but logical, he reported. Once you understand their thinking, it makes sense. Rachel Stone was their communications expert. She had been intercepting Kethvar transmissions for months, slowly building a translation database. Her work was giving them insights into alien military operations. They're planning something big, she warned during one evening briefing. I'm seeing increased chatter about fleet movements. The team worked 18-hour days. They ate, slept, and lived aboard the alien ship. Slowly, they began to understand how it functioned. The weapons were powered by something that wasn't quite energy and wasn't quite matter. The engines folded space rather than pushing through it. The computer systems were grown rather than built. Dr. Cooper made his breakthrough in the third week. He had successfully modified human genetic markers to fool the ship's security systems. The first test was terrifying and wonderful. Jake placed his hand on the ship's control panel. For a moment, nothing happened. Then displays lit up all around the bridge. Text appeared in alien script, but somehow Jake could understand it. "Welcome, Commander," the ship's voice said in his head. The artificial intelligence that ran the ship was unlike anything humans had encountered. It called itself something that translated roughly as Tactical Combat Intelligence, the VNO. Humans nicknamed it Kate. Kate was not happy about serving humans. "You are not Kethvar," the AI said during their first conversation. "You are an inferior species." "We're the species that's going to use your ship to kill your creators," Maya replied bluntly. There was a long pause. "That is unexpected." Over the following days, Kate began providing tactical information. The AI seemed to find the concept of revenge interesting, even admirable. It started teaching them about Kethvar military doctrine and ship capabilities. "Your species fights differently than ours," Kate observed. "Kethvar tactics are based on overwhelming force and shock. Humans appear to favor cunning and adaptation." The AI's help accelerated their progress dramatically. Within days, they had basic weapons online. The engines were responding to commands. Life support was fully functional, but their time was running out. Rachel intercepted a transmission that changed everything. A Kethvar patrol ship had detected the energy signature from their work. It was investigating the area where they had found the derelict. "They'll trace it back here eventually," she warned. Jake made a hard decision. They used the Retribution's partially functional weapons to destroy the patrol ship before it could report their location. But they knew more Kethvar ships would come looking. "We have maybe 2 weeks before they send a full fleet," Commander Bell estimated. That same day, Rachel made another discovery that froze everyone's blood. She had decoded a high-priority Kethvar transmission about something called final cleansing. "It's an invasion plan," she explained, her face pale. "They're gathering their entire fleet to attack Earth directly." The room fell silent. Earth was home to 8 billion people. If the Kethvar attacked with their full force, humanity's homeworld would suffer the same fate as New Phoenix. "When?" Jake asked. 6 weeks. "Maybe 7. Jake looked around at his team. They were just 50 people working with one partially functional alien ship. The Kethvar fleet would number in the hundreds. "We can't fight their entire fleet," Morgan said. "No," Jake agreed, "but we can make them pay for what they've done." Dr. Foster had been studying the ship's database, learning about Kethvar society and military structure. She had found something interesting. "They have a central shipyard system called Vorthak," she reported. "Most of their invasion fleet is being built there." "How far?" Tony asked. "In 12 light years, deep in Kethvar space." Jake studied the star charts. Vorthak was heavily defended, surrounded by patrol fleets and orbital weapons. It would be suicide to attack it, but it was also where they could hurt the Kethvar the most. "We need to move fast," he decided. "Cooper, how many people can you give the genetic modifications?" "Maybe 30. More than that and I risk making mistakes." "Do it." "Maya, how long until the ship is fully operational?" "With Kate's help, maybe a week. Make it 5 days." As the meeting broke up, Jake stayed on the bridge with Kate. The AI had been unusually quiet during the discussion. "You're planning to attack Vorthak," Kate said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, that is suicide. One ship cannot defeat an entire shipyard complex." "One ship can't defeat it," Jake agreed. "But one ship might be able to cripple it." Kate was silent for a long moment. "You intend to die in this attack, if necessary." "Curious. Kethvar do not willingly sacrifice themselves for abstract concepts. We're not Kethvar." "No," Kate agreed. "You are not." Jake looked out at the stars through the bridge windows. Somewhere out there, the Kethvar were building ships to destroy his homeworld. In a few weeks, every human being on Earth might be dead, but not if he could help it. The Retribution was going to war. The Retribution was no longer just a Kethvar warship. Over the past 3 weeks, Maya Johnson and her team had been making changes that would have horrified the original designers. Human missile launchers now sat alongside alien energy weapons. Earth-made fusion reactors powered Kethvar shield generators. The result was something that belonged to neither species, a hybrid monster that combined the best of both technologies. "The power output is incredible," Maya reported during the morning briefing. The alien amplifiers are boosting our fusion reactors by 300%. Danny Collins, their chief technician, had been working with Kate to integrate human targeting systems with alien weapons. Danny was a practical man who understood machines better than people. He had somehow convinced the ship's AI to accept human modifications. The main gun can now lock onto targets using human sensors, he explained. Our targeting computers are faster than Kethvar systems, but their weapons are more powerful. Together they're deadly. Kate had been surprisingly helpful during the integration process. The AI seemed fascinated by human engineering. Your species builds inefficiently but creatively, Kate observed. Kethvar technology is superior in raw power, but human technology adapts better to changing conditions. Dr. Cooper's genetic modifications were working perfectly. 30 crew members could now interface directly with the ship's systems, but the process had taken a toll on everyone. Some people experienced headaches and nausea, others reported strange dreams. The alien DNA is changing how our brains process information, Cooper explained. It's not dangerous, but it's different. Jake felt the changes himself. When he touched the ship's controls, he could sense the vessel around him like it was part of his body. He knew the status of every system, every weapon, every shield generator, but their peaceful work was interrupted by news from Rachel Stone. I've been monitoring Kethvar communications, she announced during an emergency meeting. They're sending a battle group to investigate the missing patrol ship. How long? Commander Bell asked. 3 days, maybe 4. Bell had been dividing his time between the secret project and his official duties. Officially, he was investigating mining operations in the outer system. Unofficially, he was helping humanity's most desperate gamble. We need to move, Jake decided. The ship isn't finished, but it's functional. Where? Tony asked. Deep space. Somewhere we can finish preparations without being found. But as they prepared to leave, Rachel intercepted another transmission that changed everything. The Earth invasion is ahead of schedule, she announced, her face pale. They're launching in 4 weeks, not 6. The room fell silent. 4 weeks wasn't enough time to reach Vorthak, attack the shipyards, and return to defend Earth. We have to choose, Bell said quietly. Attack their shipyards or defend Earth. Jake stared at the tactical displays showing Kethvar fleet movements. The alien invasion force was massive, hundreds of warships with enough firepower to crack Earth's crust. If we defend Earth, we might save some people, he said slowly. But the Kethvar will just build more ships and attack again. And if we attack Vorthak? Morgan asked. We might cripple their ability to build new fleets, but Earth will be defenseless. Dr. Foster had been studying intelligence reports from Kethvar space. She had found something important in the ship's database. The invasion fleet needs resupply ships, she announced. They're carrying weapons and fuel from Vorthak. If we could disrupt their supply lines, they'd have to delay the invasion, Kate finished. Interesting strategy. Jake looked at the star charts again. Vorthak was the key to everything. The shipyards weren't just building new vessels, they were supplying the invasion fleet. We hit Vorthak, he decided. Hard and fast. 1 ship against an entire star system? Bell asked. 1 ship they won't see coming. Maya had been working on a solution to their detection problem. The Retribution still appeared to be a normal Kethvar vessel on long-range sensors. If they could get close enough to the shipyards, they might be able to launch a surprise attack. We'd need to use their own access codes, Rachel explained. Pretend to be a returning patrol ship. Kate can provide those, Danny added. She knows current military protocols. The AI was surprisingly willing to help. The Kethvar Empire declared your species extinct after New Phoenix, Kate explained. Seeing you use their own weapons against them would be satisfying. But getting to Vorthak was only part of the problem. Once they arrived, they would face hundreds of defensive ships and orbital weapons platforms. Dr. Cooper had been studying the ship's database, looking for weaknesses in Kethvar military networks. He had found something interesting. Their ships are networked, he explained. Command vessels can control multiple ships at once. It's efficient, but it creates vulnerabilities. What kind of vulnerabilities? Jake asked. If we could introduce a virus into their network, it might spread to other ships. Cooper and Maya had been working together on the concept, a human-computer virus designed to exploit Kethvar network protocols. It would need to be uploaded directly to a command ship, Maya explained, and we'd only get 1 chance. What would it do? Morgan asked. Chaos, Cooper replied with a grim smile. The virus would scramble command hierarchies, create false targets, turn their automated systems against each other. Jake studied the plan. It was desperate and dangerous, but it might work. One ship couldn't defeat the entire Kethvar fleet, but one ship might be able to turn that fleet against itself. How long to prepare the virus? He asked. We need to finish it during the journey, Cooper replied. I can't test it without risking detection. That night, Jake stood alone on the bridge looking out at the stars. In a few hours, they would leave human space behind and journey into the heart of enemy territory. Many of his crew would not return. Kate's voice interrupted his thoughts. You are troubled, Commander. Wouldn't you be? Kethvar do not experience doubt. We calculate odds and act accordingly. What are the odds of our mission succeeding? There was a long pause. Mathematically insignificant. Jake laughed bitterly. Then why are you helping us? Your species confuses me, Kate admitted. You attempt tasks that logic says are impossible, yet sometimes you succeed. I find this intriguing. Maybe that's why we'll win. Perhaps. Or perhaps you will die gloriously and achieve nothing. Jake looked around the bridge that had become his second home. Human and alien technology merged seamlessly, creating something new and dangerous. Either way, the Kethvar will remember us. The next morning, the Retribution left human space behind. 50 people aboard a stolen alien warship, heading into the unknown to attempt the impossible. Behind them, Earth continued its daily routine, unaware that its fate rested in the hands of a mining ship captain and his desperate crew. Ahead lay the Kethvar Empire, confident in their superiority and unprepared for the hybrid weapon coming their way. The real war was about to begin. The Vorthak system looked peaceful from a distance. 3 yellow suns orbited each other in a complex dance, surrounded by dozens of planets and moons. But as the Retribution moved closer, the true scope of Kethvar military power became clear. Sensors show over 200 ships in the system, reported Susan Price, their navigator. She was a quiet woman who had spent years mapping hyperspace routes for merchant vessels. Now she was guiding them through the most dangerous territory in the galaxy. Ben Scott, their communications officer, was monitoring Kethvar radio traffic. Ben was young but experienced, someone who had learned alien languages during the first contact attempts years ago. They're using standard patrol protocols, he reported. No unusual security measures. Jake watched the tactical display as they approached the outer system. Massive space stations orbited the primary planet, each one larger than any human city. Ships moved between them in regular patterns, carrying supplies and materials. It's beautiful, Maya whispered from her engineering station. It was. The Kethvar had built something magnificent here, an industrial complex that spanned an entire star system. The orbital shipyards were works of art, flowing metal structures that seemed to grow rather than be constructed. But Jake knew what those beautiful ships were built for. He had seen the aftermath of their attacks on human colonies. Contact ahead, Tony announced from the pilot station. Patrol ship requesting identification. This was the moment of truth. Kate had provided them with stolen access codes, but there was no guarantee they would work. Transmit the codes, Jake ordered. Ben sent the false identification. They waited, knowing that discovery meant death for everyone aboard. Codes accepted. The patrol ship finally responded. Proceed to Station 7 for resupply. They were in. The Retribution moved deeper into the system, following shipping lanes marked by navigation beacons. Around them, Kethvar vessels went about their business unaware that an enemy ship was among them. The invasion fleet is berthed at the main shipyards, Dr. Foster observed, studying her scanners. I count at least 300 ships. Jake felt his blood run cold. 300 warships, each one capable of destroying a human city. If this fleet reached Earth, humanity would be extinct within days. How long until they launch? He asked. Rachel checked her intercepts of military communications. 2 weeks. They're waiting for final weapon shipments. Those 2 weeks might be all the time Earth had left. They docked at Station 7 without incident. The Kethvar port officials barely glanced at their false papers. To them, the Retribution was just another patrol ship returning from routine duties. While the ship took on supplies, Jake and his team began their reconnaissance mission. They split into small groups using personal cloaking devices built from salvaged alien technology. The scale of the operation was breathtaking. The main shipyard complex stretched for thousands of kilometers, with construction bays large enough to build ships the size of cities. Assembly lines moved with mechanical precision, turning raw materials into instruments of war. Dr. Cooper had been studying the shipyard's computer networks, looking for ways to introduce their virus. What he found was both encouraging and terrifying. The entire fleet is networked, he reported during a clandestine meeting in the ship's cargo bay. Every ship can communicate with every other ship instantly. That's good for us, right? Danny asked. If we can get the virus into the network, yes. But the security is incredible. We'd need direct physical access to a command ship's main computer. Maya had been studying the docking manifests. The fleet command ship is the Kethmore. It's docked at the central shipyard for final systems checks. Jake looked at the facility schematics Foster had obtained. The central shipyard was the most heavily defended structure in the system, surrounded by weapons platforms and patrol ships. We'd need a distraction, Morgan noted, something to draw their attention away from the command ship. As they planned their infiltration, Ben made a disturbing discovery in the communication logs. The Kethvar know about our attack on their patrol ship, he announced. They're increasing security throughout the Empire. How much time do we have? Jake asked. Maybe days. They're sending investigation teams to check all patrol ships that haven't reported in recently. The pressure was building. Soon, the Kethvar would discover that the retribution was not where it was supposed to be. When that happened, the entire system would be on alert. They decided to move that night. The plan was desperate but simple. Tony would use the Retribution's stealth systems to approach the central shipyard. Meanwhile, Morgan and her team would infiltrate the Kethmore and upload Cooper's virus to its computer network. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. The stealth systems malfunctioned as they approached the shipyard. A routine security scan detected anomalies in their ship's configuration. Alarms began blaring across the facility. "We're blown," Tony announced as Kethvar security ships began converging on their position. Jake made a split-second decision. All weapons open fire, clear a path to the command ship. The Retribution erupted in violence. Human missiles and alien energy beams lanced out, striking Kethvar patrol ships. The hybrid weapon systems performed better than anyone had hoped, destroying enemy vessels with terrifying efficiency, but they were outnumbered 50-1. Hull breach on Deck 3, Maya reported as enemy fire hammered their shields. Dr. Torres, who had been manning the weapons console, was killed when an alien energy beam overloaded his station. He died instantly, his final act being to transfer weapons control to the backup station. "Torres is down," Morgan reported. "I'm taking weapons." The ship shuddered under repeated impacts. Their stolen Kethvar shields were failing under the massive firepower directed against them. "We're not going to make it," Tony said through gritted teeth as he fought to keep the ship on course. "Yes, we are," Jake replied. "Kate, emergency power to engines." "Compliance," the AI responded. "Warning. This will overload primary systems." "Do it." The Retribution surged forward with a burst of speed that caught the Kethvar defenders off guard. They crashed through the shipyard's defensive perimeter and slammed into the docking bay where the Kethmore was berthed. "Go, go, go," Jake shouted. Morgan led her team onto the command ship while the Retribution's crew fought to keep enemy boarders at bay. The Kethvar ship was huge and maze-like, but Foster had memorized the layout from stolen blueprints. They fought their way through corridors filled with alien warriors. The Kethvar were larger and stronger than humans, but the boarding team had surprise and desperation on their side. Cooper reached the main computer core just as Kethvar reinforcements arrived. He had seconds to upload the virus before enemy fire filled the chamber. "Upload complete," he announced just before a Kethvar energy weapon cut him down. "Fall back," Morgan ordered. "Mission accomplished." The surviving team members fought their way back to the Retribution, carrying their wounded. The ship was badly damaged with fires burning on multiple decks. "Can we fly?" Jake asked Maya. "Maybe. If the engines don't explode, then let's get out of here." The Retribution limped away from the shipyard as Cooper's virus began to spread through the Kethvar fleet network. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then chaos erupted. Ship after ship began receiving contradictory orders from the network. Automated systems turned on each other. Friend or foe identification systems failed, causing ships to target their own allies. The beautiful, orderly shipyard became a war zone as hundreds of vessels opened fire on each other. The invasion fleet, which had taken years to assemble, began destroying itself in a matter of hours. "It's working," Rachel announced, monitoring the communications chaos. "They can't shut it down." But their victory came at a terrible cost. Half the crew was dead or wounded. The ship itself was barely holding together. "Hyperspace engine is offline," Maya reported. "We're stranded." Jake looked at the tactical display showing the burning wreckage of the HFY fleet. They had succeeded beyond their wildest hopes, but they would not live to see Earth's salvation. "At least we hurt them," he said quietly. Outside the ship, the Vorthak system continued to burn. The virus had spread beyond the fleet to the shipyard facilities themselves, causing industrial accidents and system failures. Throughout the complex, the HFY Empire's ability to wage war had been crippled in a single night by 50 humans and a stolen ship. It was a small consolation as enemy reinforcements began closing in on their position. The journey home should have been impossible. The Retribution was dying, held together by emergency repairs and the determination of its crew. Maya had performed miracles with spare parts and alien technology, but even miracles had limits. "Hyperspace engine is working at 30%, she reported. "We can make one jump, maybe two, before it fails completely." Jake looked at the navigation charts. Earth was still 3 jumps away. With their damaged engines, they would never make it home, but that was before Kate made an unexpected announcement. "I have been monitoring HFY military communications," the AI said. "The invasion fleet has launched ahead of schedule." Rachel checked her instruments. "Kate's right. They're using ships from other systems to replace the ones we destroyed." Jake felt his heart sink. Despite everything they had sacrificed, the HFY were still coming for Earth. "How long?" he asked. "They'll reach Earth in 6 days, Ben calculated. The defense fleet won't stand a chance." The bridge fell silent. They had given everything to stop the invasion, and it hadn't been enough. But Dr. Foster had been studying the communication intercepts. She found something that changed everything. "The replacement ships aren't fully equipped," she announced. "They're missing advanced weapon systems and shield generators. The virus at Vorthak destroyed most of their military supplies." "So they're weaker than planned?" Morgan asked. "Much weaker. If Earth's defense fleet knew exactly where and when to hit them." Jake understood immediately. "We need to warn Earth Defense Force." "Our communications are damaged," Ben reported. "I can send a message, but it will take days to reach Earth through normal channels. Then we go ourselves." Maya stared at him. "Jake, the ship won't survive another hyperspace jump." "Then we make it count." The decision was unanimous. They would push the dying ship to its limits for one final mission. If they could reach Earth before the invasion fleet, their intelligence might make the difference between victory and defeat. The hyperspace jump nearly tore the ship apart. Metal screamed as stressed hull plates shifted. Power conduits exploded, filling the corridors with smoke and sparks. When they finally dropped back into normal space, the Retribution was more wreck than warship, but they had made it. Earth hung before them, blue and beautiful and still alive. "Earth Defense Force vessels are responding to our signal," Ben announced. "They're not sure whether to rescue us or arrest us." Commander Bell, who had somehow survived the chaos at Vorthak, took over communications. His official authorization got them through Earth's defensive perimeter. "Admiral Carter wants to see us immediately," Bell reported. Admiral Carter was a legend in Earth Defense Force. She had been fighting alien threats since the First Contact Wars. When Jake and his survivors were brought before her, she listened to their report with growing amazement. "You destroyed their primary shipyard with one ship?" she asked. "We turned their own technology against them," Jake replied. "The invasion fleet is coming, but they're weakened. If you hit them at the right time and place." Carter studied the intelligence data they had gathered. "Where will they drop out of hyperspace?" "Here." Foster pointed to a location just outside Earth's solar system. "They'll need to regroup before the final assault." "Perfect." Carter turned to her staff officers. "How many ships do we have available?" 67 combat vessels, came the reply, against an estimated 200 enemy ships. The odds were still terrible, but they were better than anyone had hoped. "We'll use the asteroid belt for cover," Carter decided. "Hit them while they're still organizing." Jake looked at the tactical plans taking shape. Earth's defense fleet would face the HFY in a desperate battle among the asteroids. It was humanity's last chance. "We want to join the battle," he announced. Carter looked at the battered Retribution through her office window. The ship was barely spaceworthy, held together by emergency patches and determination. That ship will never survive a fleet engagement, she said. Maybe not, Jake agreed, but it's still got alien weapons and Kate's tactical knowledge. We can help? After a moment, Carter nodded. Very well, but you follow my orders out there. The battle began 3 days later when Kethvar ships dropped out of hyperspace exactly where Foster had predicted. They came in waves, hundreds of alien vessels emerging from the void. But instead of the overwhelming force they had planned, the invasion fleet was confused and disorganized. Ships were missing weapons and equipment that should have been installed at Vorthak. Command structures were disrupted by lingering effects of Cooper's virus. Earth's defense fleet struck while the enemy was still forming up. Human ships darted between asteroids, using the rocky debris as cover while they launched missiles at alien vessels. The Retribution fought alongside them, its hybrid weapons proving devastatingly effective against Kethvar shields. Tony's piloting skills, enhanced by alien neural interfaces, allowed the ship to dance between enemy fire like a deadly ghost. Direct hit on their command ship, Morgan reported from the weapons station. But the battle was taking its toll. Human ships were being destroyed faster than they could be replaced. For every Kethvar vessel they killed, they lost 2 of their own. We're losing, Admiral Carter transmitted. All ships prepare for final assault. Jake looked around the bridge of the Retribution. Half his crew was dead. The ship itself was held together by hope and spare parts, but they had one advantage the Kethvar didn't expect. Kate, he said to the AI, can you access the Kethvar fleet network from here? Negative. I would need direct connection to their command systems. What if we rammed their command ship? There was a pause. That would be suicide. But would it work? Yes, if I could upload an updated virus to their network, it might disable their entire fleet. Jake looked at his surviving crew. Tony at the helm. Maya trying to keep the engines running. Morgan at weapons. Ben and Rachel monitoring communications. Dr. Foster analyzing enemy movements. They had started this journey as miners and scientists. Now they were humanity's last hope. Do it, he ordered. The Retribution broke from the human battle line and accelerated toward the Kethvar command ship. Enemy fire concentrated on them as they realized what was happening. Hull breaches on all decks, Maya reported as alien weapons tore through their shields. Main power failing, Tony announced as his control console exploded in sparks. Keep us on course, Jake ordered. The ship shuddered as it took hit after hit. Bulkheads collapsed. Life support failed. The crew fought to keep their weapons firing as they drove toward their target. Captain Morrison died when a Kethvar energy beam punched through the bridge armor. With his last breath, he passed command to Lieutenant Colonel Morgan. Almost there, Morgan announced as the alien command ship grew larger in their view screen. The Retribution slammed into the Kethvar vessel with the force of a small asteroid. Both ships' hulls cracked open, spilling atmosphere and debris into space. Kate used the direct connection to upload her final virus into the enemy network. This time the program was specifically designed to cause maximum chaos. Kethvar ships began targeting each other, their command systems corrupted beyond repair. The surviving crew of the Retribution evacuated in escape pods as their ship broke apart. They watched from their lifeboats as the Kethvar fleet destroyed itself, ship after ship exploding in chains of friendly fire. Within hours, the invasion was over. The alien fleet lay in ruins among the asteroids, victims of their own technology turned against them. Rescue ships found the survivors floating in space. Tony Garcia, Ashley Morgan, Dr. Amanda Foster, and a handful of others were all that remained of the 50 people who had begun the journey aboard a stolen alien warship. The war was over. Earth was safe. The Kethvar Empire, crippled by the loss of their primary shipyard and invasion fleet, sued for peace within months. But the victory came at a terrible cost. Jake Morrison and most of his crew were dead, their sacrifice honored by a grateful planet. The recovered alien technology revolutionized human space travel and defense. Within years, human ships were exploring distant galaxies, protected by weapons and shields derived from Kethvar science. The universe had learned an important lesson. Humanity could be destroyed, but they would never be conquered. The species that had turned a derelict alien warship into an instrument of revenge would not bow to any empire. And in the depths of space, the wreckage of the Retribution drifted among the stars, a monument to the day that 50 humans changed the course of galactic history.